Air India Pilots Association has urged the government to allow some of their members to quit without serving notice period. The pilots union has also asked the government to clear all their dues immediately. The union raised concerns as well after the aviation minister Hardeep Singh Puri's recent statement where the minister said that if Air India is not privatized by 31st of March 2020, then the airline will be shut down. Now, these are some concerns that have been raised by the Air India Pilots Association. They have now written to the government asking them to allow some of their members to quit without serving the necessary notice period. They've also asked the government to clear all the dues immediately. And apart from these two requests, the union has also raised several concerns following a statement that had come from the aviation minister Hardeep Singh Puri, where he indicated that if Air India is not privatized by 31st March 2020, then the airline will be shut, and that had caused a lot of speculation and panic among the Air India employees there as well. The Air India Pilots Association raising alarm, sending a letter to the aviation minister as well. And they're saying, and I quote, "Our patience is running thin. We are in no position to work with uncertainty. We do not want to face the same fate as other private carriers living with uncertainty for the last 3 years." This is the letter that has been written to the aviation minister by the Air India Pilots Union, which has raised alarm. They've also said that many employees have defaulted on the loans, and this has greatly affected their families. Let me go across to my colleague Tanima for further updates on this. Tanima, this is important because now the Air India pilots have raised several concerns and requests have been put across to the government. Help us understand what are the concerns raised by the pilots at this point.
Right, Apurva, as you mentioned, that this has in fact been a problem which we have seen the national carrier struggling with for quite some time. This is all a result of the financial crunch that the national carrier has been facing. If we just look at this latest letter which has been issued by the Air India Pilots Association, in that letter which has been addressed to the aviation minister, they have essentially pointed out that their patience is running thin. If we go into the next point, they are saying, we are in no position to work with uncertainty. They're of course saying that the financial concerns of the airlines have been such that there seems to be a lot of question marks about the future of what will happen to this particular airlines. They also say we don't want to face the same fate as other private carriers, of course referring to recent cases that we have seen, especially with Jet Airways, about how all the aircrafts of that particular airlines was grounded because of financial stress that the airlines was facing. So the Pilots Association here is saying that we don't want to meet the same fate. They are also saying we have been living with uncertainty for 3 years, and they also go on to add that there are several employees who are defaulting on their loans and that this is causing a lot of stress on their families. Let's also quickly look at what has in fact been the journey so far in terms of the financial stress that the airlines has in fact been facing. That will give us an overview of what exactly is the problem that the airlines has faced so far. So there have been several privatization attempts that have been made in terms of Air India. Firstly, the government panel had to examine whether or not Air India's stake sale was possible. That happened in 2002, more than a decade ago. Singapore Airlines led the consortium backed out at the last minute. So when the talks were held, the very same year, the Singapore Airline Consortium backed out, saying that they were not ready to go ahead with the deal. Following that, of course, next we go into 2007. So 5 years later, there was no movement for 5 years on that particular issue. When we go into the next point, Air India and Indian Airlines merged. So that was, of course, a big merger done in order to save the national carrier. There were two separate entities, but then it merged into one in 2007. But by 2011, it was found out that Air India had in fact accumulated a debt of over 42,000 crore. Remember, the figure right now is 53,000 crores. So this has of course piled up over the years. But even by 2011, there were alarm bells ringing. Going to the next point, Civil Aviation Minister at that point in time, Ajit Singh, in fact, pushed for privatization. So after 2002, the next time that we see somebody picking up that point of trying to privatize Air India was in 2013. Remember, this was towards the end of the UPA 2 era. So Ajit Singh could not really go ahead with too much at that point in time. And the BJP and CPIM also opposed this move. There was opposition which went against this particular effort being made by the government, and it was towards the end of UPA 2's term. So not much was done at that point, and then again things went into cold storage. It was in 2017 that the Modi government approved privatization, the bid to make Air India private once again. So that privatization bid was approved by Modi government in 2017, and the process properly begun by 2018 as no bidder came forward. Following that, if we look at consequently what had in fact happened, government in fact decided to retain 24%. That was something which did not go very well with people, with possible bidders who came forward. So there weren't that many people who actually decided to bid for the stakes in Air India. And following which, again, we see there is the government mulling on and selling the entire stake, whether or not 24% or holding back 24% was actually causing a hindrance to selling stakes in the airlines. Then there was a fresh attempt again by the government this year to divest the stake that they had in the airlines. And after that, what we have in fact seen is that there were plans to revive the airlines before any sale. So there were certain changes being made by the aviation ministry as far as Air India is concerned in order to spruce up the airline in a way before any kind of changes, any kind of sale could be done or any privatization efforts could be done. And Air India currently incurs a loss of 15 crore per day. So that is, as I said, a total loss so far accumulated is around over 53,000 crore. And if we average it out, it's around 15 crore loss per day. So those are some of the big concerns that we have in terms of what Air India, the situation that Air India is in right now. And that is probably one of the symptoms that we are seeing at the moment, is how some of these pilots are now seeking to quit and not even serve their notice period, but are asking for their dues.
All right, we'll have to leave it there, Tanima. Many thanks for joining us and bringing us all those updates.